So, for my choice for the final project, I decided to choose Donald Trump. Now, Trump has obviously been like a very big and successful company in history. You see his dad also being rich and famous with the company, and then he inherited stuff, and now he's rich and famous and currently the president. Well, when researching how the organization used various forms of media throughout its history to communicate with the masses, it was definitely a big thing. In order to get your ideas out there, in order to get opinions, they often turned to the media. They would talk to the press and get their new ideas put into newspapers, magazines, news stations, social media now even is a big part in how they communicate. It's been one of like their key ingredients to a recipe of success, I guess you could say. Now, their choices and their communication, it does always target someone. There's always an audience. And it's very hard not to say that there isn't because no matter who you are, what you're writing, what you're promoting, there's always someone you're targeting to agree with your ideas or to influence them with your ideas. And the Trump company, Donald Trump, is definitely doing that. Right now, they seem to be specifically targeting Republicans, conservatives, those of that matter, mostly due to the fact that Trump is uh, the president under Republican means. Um, However, this is changing. Um, for example, Donald Trump used to be Democratic. He changed his political views, changed sides, whatnot. I mean, before the running campaign of this last election, I would argue that Trump targeted a more broad area of people. For example, Democrat, Republican, not many people really was like, oh, it was like he targeted whoever was watching his show or connected to the company or who they're targeting, college students, etc. There was a much broader field, but since he got involved with politics, I feel like it definitely shifted to targeting Republicans, those of traditional values, and I mean, whether he's successful or not, uh, and for example, like his visual representation, the logo of the organization has changed. I mean, this isn't necessarily his company, mostly his campaign for the presidential election. I just thought it was a perfect example because it was very much big in news and social media. So basically, when Pence joined his campaign as vice president, they came out with this logo that is on the screen here. And basically, what happened is someone on social media made a sexual joke about the T going into the P. And they're basically making a sexual joke, basically saying how Trump and Pence had like sexual relationships, which was completely nonsense. It was just a joke. But Trump took immediate action to it and he completely changed their campaign logo because you can't have that kind of publicity. I mean, it wasn't necessarily him, it was like, his group of people working with him. But, it's just something that needs to occur for any company. Whenever there's attention, maybe you want to renew your company, you just kind of change the logo, make it a little better, make it look retro, make it look modern, even if it's just a slight little change, update on color. It happens whoever you are. But Trump is definitely a firm user of this type of change. And the organization it has definitely adapted to the evolution of mass media. Donald Trump and Twitter. It's a big thing. The company uses it. Donald Trump uses it for the presidency, as you can see tweets for him on the screen. Um, and all of my information on this came from an NPR article, and it was basically talking about how Trump uses social media more than any any other president, any other company leader. For example, Donald Trump used Twitter to release his press conference rather than actually doing it in person like a more traditional president would have done. So he's definitely commanded Twitter. Nowadays, I think people just use Twitter to mock him, like they'll take his post and blah blah blah. But before that, he would post how successful his company was doing, what the stocks were, Trump University, and how it was being set into effect. I don't know. It was just he definitely used Twitter for the company's advantage. Obviously, like any company does, it has an effect on our culture. So when Googling how Trump's company, how Trump himself, how his values, etc., influence our culture, I kept finding articles claiming that it was fueling a culture war. Now, this article is specifically talking about policies that he's put into effect, but it also goes into depth about his company and how his company definitely targets like certain people, and how even in response to being called a racist, Trump said how he has Mexican workers and he had Mexican food on Cinco de Mayo. But it's definitely created a culture war for what some people would like to call neo-Nazis and others would call just traditional Republicans. It's definitely given minorities a fight for their subculture and conservatives a fight for their subcultures and liberals a fight for their subcultures. It's basically almost separated us at this point, mostly due to his presidency. Before that, he mostly influenced it by being a respected businessman. Before his presidency, you rarely heard that Trump's doing this again, Trump's doing that again, but now just as he's given himself the running of the presidency and winning, he has a lot more influence, and that's just what it happens. If you bring up the Trump company, there's some people who won't even want to talk to you about it, which is perfectly fine, their opinion, their thoughts. Can't change that. However, there are times where Trump's company has had issues. For example, the company's creation of Trump University. Now, this is only one of many different things the President Donald Trump has been involved in. Right now, it's Stormy Daniels, someone he allegedly had an affair with and now wants to tell the public. There's also been things like lying about like how well your company's actually doing, or like when they went to bankruptcy a couple of times. Or when their stocks are high, or etc. But this one was just one that kind of hit home with me because it's college students, and it was very big. Basically, they made like funded and developed a university. They called it Trump University after the company, after the name. And anyways, the university was all of a sudden claimed and marked to be fraud. That the university wasn't actually real and students were basically getting scammed. And it was big. And so they responded by saying, it's real, not a fraud. And it ended up going to court. It ended up being real big. People were on trial. And what they communicated and how they communicated their response to the crisis or tension, social media. They always used social media. Now, I would argue that it wasn't as effective as they wanted it to be because they did end up settling and it wasn't the best. And it just kind of made them seem like even bigger on the scam. So I'd argue it wasn't very successful. It just made people think they were scamming, they were just weaseling their way out of it, and they got lucky. My final thoughts? Obviously, Trump Company has been successful in the past and could arguably be successful now. The political tensions of the company has now just kind of split its users, its followers, and now it's kind of just a big old mess. However, it's obviously rich, famous for a reason, so therefore it's hard to argue that it's not successful. mass media has definitely promoted them.